Hey guys, I hope everyone's doing well. I know I certainly am. As you can see, I'm wearing a jacket, which I don't think I've worn in a video before. That's because the weather here is starting to get cooler. It's definitely turning into jacket weather. We're getting a couple of winter days and stuff. But I like that. I like the cooler weather. It certainly makes it easier to live in a van when it gets cooler. Anyway, what I thought I might talk about today is power inverters. And specifically what sort of power inverter you should get and how to know what you need. I just bought myself a new inverter actually, and I'll show you that in a minute because that was quite a big deal for me. That's opened up a lot of opportunities and it's made my life a hell of a lot easier. But basically, for those of you who don't know about inverters or are new to this, there's two main types of power inverters that people get. There's what's called a modified sine wave inverter and a pure sine wave inverter. Now, the better of the two is definitely the pure sine wave inverter, but they're also a hell of a lot more expensive. So it really depends on what you're going to be using it for. Some of you might not even need an inverter. If you can get by without an inverter, you're much better off because they do chew the power a little bit on a little 12-volt system using batteries and solar. But if you've got the right setup and you do the maths right, then they're not a bad little thing to have, and they can open up a lot of opportunities for you, like I said. So, what's the difference? Well, a modified sine wave inverter, you sort of have to understand how alternating current works in electricity, but AC versus DC. DC is direct current and AC is alternating current. And with alternating current, the electricity is delivered from the power stations in waves, and it goes up and down like this, so it's alternating basically. And a modified sine wave inverter it's sort of like a digitally created sine wave, or at least that's what it looks like. I don't know the exact science behind it, but it looks like a square wave. So it comes across and goes up, across, down, down, across, up. It's like it's sort of like a wave, but it's square shaped. Now, a pure sine wave inverter is a bit more of a technical piece of equipment. Same sort of size and things like that. They don't really look much different on the outside. But pure sine wave inverters make, as the name suggests, a more pure sine wave. So you actually get that curvature on the wave. And I don't know exactly why. Like I said, I haven't looked into the full science behind it, but all I know is that certain pieces of electrical equipment and electronics won't work at all on a modified sine wave inverter. And some of them will work, but they won't work as well. They might not be as efficient, or they might do funny things. For example, I noticed with some of my camera battery chargers and things like that, they would play up where I would plug them in, because I used to have, I still do, I've got a small modified sine wave inverter that I can show you that I used to use, but it used to do funny stuff. I'd plug the batteries in and they would sort of take either a long time to charge, or they would just flash and not charge at all. Sometimes they would charge. I've seen videos on YouTube of people plugging in microwaves to modified sine wave inverters, and they make a lot of noise. They hum and buzz, and the time goes funny on the timer. And I know when I plugged in my laptop adapter to the modified sine wave inverter, it did used to buzz. You could hold it up to your ear and you could hear like a zzz, and that to me is not good. That means it's not working right. And my guess is it would probably be prone to overheating and burning out the adapter. And with the adapters for my laptop actually costing more than a modified sine wave inverter, I thought that's kind of a big expense to be burning out. So I went and bought myself a pure sine wave inverter anyway. I didn't get a very big one, but my needs aren't that great. I got a 400 watt, and to give you an idea of what a 400 watt could do, it definitely will charge a laptop. It wouldn't run a hairdryer or anything like that. You're not going to be able to run any of those big or power hungry devices. I can power a small blender off it though, and you have to be picky which blender you buy, because a lot of the typical blenders now are about 700 watts and upward. But if you buy the cheaper ones, which is good because I didn't really want to buy an expensive one in the first place, you can get them to work, because I got a 300 watt blender, and that works perfectly on the 400 watt pure sine wave inverter. So yeah, it's important to know the difference, because if you walked into a shop, you could just see two different inverters and go, wow, that one's $100 and that one's $300, and they have the same power output. Yes and no. Yes, the total wattage that they put out is the same, but the type of power that you're getting from it and how usable it is completely different. So I honestly recommend pure sine wave for everything. I think the modified sine waves are a bit useless now that I've done the research. And I did originally buy one of those little can-sized modified sine wave inverters because they're really cheap, just to run my laptop and charge batteries and things like that. And I had it for a while and it was okay, but the thing used to overheat. I used to have to set it up and also set up a USB fan blowing on it so that it wouldn't overheat, just so that it wouldn't stop charging whatever I was charging. So it couldn't even handle the wattage that it was designed to handle. It was just cheap and nasty, but it got me out of a few tight spots anyway. So I'll show you the inverter that I got. It's just around here. I'll just move some things out of the way so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, this is my new inverter. Sorry it's a little bit dark. I've had to attach a little torch to the camera so that you can see. But this is the 400 watt inverter here. Hopefully it won't be too bright, and you can see it says pure sine wave inverter there. So that's 400 watts. I've mounted it just near my fire extinguisher. And what I've also done, because they come with a single power outlet, and that's going to look a bit funny to anyone from overseas. That's what our plugs look like in Australia. It comes with a single power outlet there, and to make it more usable, I've plugged that in, and that is actually connected to this power board. And these are the battery chargers I use for torches and things like that. So they're quite fat, and what this power adapter actually has is two double spaces on the end. See how these ones are closer together, and then this one's a double space? Well, they fit, and it's almost like they were designed to fit there, because they fit there perfectly. So that's the inverter. It's also got a USB charging outlet on there, which is quite good. And basically how I set it up was I screwed it onto the side here, which is timber, easy to do. And then I've got a fuse on the positive line, as you can see. I like to use these types of fuses. I don't know if there's any benefits to them or not, other than the fact that they look nice, and I find them quite easy to wire up and service. If they're going to be somewhere that's visible, and I think they look quite good. I think typically they're supposed to be used for car sound systems, but the wattage rating is right, so I use them. Yeah, then I run the two wires around the back there, and it goes right around the back of my little cabinet here, and I'll show you around the side where it comes out. So it comes out just in here. Comes out behind the cabinet. I've sent it under the step there, and I've attached it via cable ties to some of my existing wires here, all the way around the step, up and around the back, and then it comes up into the battery housing, which I've shown you guys before. You know what it looks like in there. And I connected it directly to the battery. I connected it directly to the battery instead of going through my little fuse setup in there, because these are quite heavy gauge wires. You have to really know how to calculate the thickness of wire that you need to use on something like this, because 400 watts, even though it's not a very powerful inverter, is still quite a lot of current for 12 volts to handle. I think it worked out to be about, if you divide 400 by 12, it was something like 33.33 recurring amps, which is heaps. And again, I know I've mentioned this before, but be careful on taking advice when you go into stores. Do your own research and learn your own knowledge on this sort of stuff, because I went into the store and I decided on the wire that I needed, on the cable that I needed to buy, on the thickness, and I don't know why I asked, but I asked anyway. I should have learned all the other times that I've been into these stores. I went up and asked someone what they thought, just because I wanted someone to concur with me and say, yeah, that's the right one. I went and asked them, and he had no idea. They pulled the box open and started looking for the cables that were in there, and they pulled out the cables that were in there. They said, it's already got some cables. I said, no, I need to know the thickness, because I'm going to be running a much longer run than that. That's only 1 meter long. I need 5 meters. So then they just said, that thick. And I said, well, can you show me in the shop? And they took me down there, and he said, this one here, you won't need any thicker than that. That's overkill, that'll be more than enough. And I said to him, yeah, but the one you've pointed at has a 25 amp rating. And he said, yeah. And I said, well, this 400 watt, if you divide 400 by 12 to get your amps, you're over 30 amps. You're looking at 33 or more amps. And you could tell he hadn't thought about it, because when I said that, he just went, oh yeah, but that's if you're using all of the power, or if you're gonna be using it maxed out. And I said, well, why would I buy something that's 400 watts that if I wasn't going to use 400 watts, even though I might not use it every day, I wouldn't buy something that's 400 watts unless I wanted the ability to potentially use the 400 watts. So anyway, long story short, I chose the cable that I chose in the first place. I took that, and that's been great. But be careful on advice that you get from people in shops, because they don't always know. And in my experience, they rarely know what they're talking about. You got to remember, these are just average people that wanted a job to pay their rent and their bills and stuff, and they might not necessarily be passionate about what they're doing. So do your own research before you go. I recommend pure sine wave inverters, and make sure you get a thick enough cable, and make sure you fuse it as well if it isn't already fused in some way. And yeah, I'll show you, before I go, I'll show you the little modified sine wave inverter that I have, so you got an idea of what it looked like. Definitely not as substantial as the other one, but this is it. So it's just a little, they call them a can inverter, because it's supposed to be the size of a drink can and fits in a like a drink holder. But it's 150 watts, I think. Don't know where doesn't say anywhere on there. It's 150 watts, modified sine wave. It has, again, a USB outlet in it. It was a pretty cool looking product. I thought, yeah, that's the kind of thing that I need. I like how compact and usable it looks, but in practice, not such a good product. I wouldn't really recommend it to anyone unless it was for traveling and you just desperately needed something very small and you're only going to use it a little bit. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Anyway, so I'm going to get out of here. The sun is setting. You should check this out before I go. Actually, have a look at the sunset. Look at that sky. Oh my God, that's amazing. I'm gonna have to enjoy this for a little bit. It's actually nice over this side as well. The whole sky is set on fire. Hopefully that comes out in the camera because that's amazing. But I'll see you guys next time. Hey guys, I hope you liked the video. If you did, don't forget to give me a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And if you want any questions answered, just leave a comment and I'll see what I can do. Bye.